Hello and welcome to Home Studies e-learning for First. In this lesson we are going to look at comparisons. First of all we will look at comparatives and then we will look at superlatives. So let's have a look at comparatives. We use comparatives when we compare two things, and when we do this we need to use the word than. Let's have a look at some examples. An elephant is bigger than a dog. I am taller than my best friend. That film was more interesting than the last one we saw. So in all these examples, we are comparing two things and therefore we need to use the word than to do this. Let's have a look at the structure. With adjectives with one syllable, for example, small, cold, cheap, we will add er. Therefore, these become smaller, colder, cheaper. But you need to use the word than to make the comparison. So smaller than, colder than, cheaper than. So for example, the United Kingdom is smaller than the United States of America. Now, with the adjective nice, we would add are because the word already ends in e. So there's no need to repeat the e, we just add are, therefore nicer than. So personally, I think that vanilla ice cream is nicer than chocolate ice cream. Now, adjectives with one syllable with a vowel and consonant, we will add the end consonant and add er. So here we've got the adjectives big, hot and thin. So big would become bigger, hot, hotter, thin, thinner. So let's have a look at the adjective big. So we've got B, which is a consonant, I is a vowel, and G is a consonant. So we will double the end consonant. So we add another G and we add ER. So if we use hot as an example, I could say Australia is hotter than the UK. And don't forget the than. Now, adjectives with more than one syllable. We would use more plus adjective. For example, more boring, more interesting, more comfortable than. Now, these adjectives, boring, interesting and comfortable, have more than one syllable, therefore more needs to go before the adjective. Have a look at this picture and create a sentence using more plus adjective to compare some items in this picture. You have about 10 seconds. Okay, here's the sentence that I created. My trainers are more comfortable than my high heels. So here I am comparing two things. I'm using the word than to do so, and I've used the adjective comfortable, which has more than one syllable. Therefore, I will put more before the adjective. Now, adjectives ending in Y after a consonant. For example, happy, funny, tidy. Now, here we will take off the Y and then we would add IER. And don't forget the than. So for example, I could say, Stacey is happier in her new job than she was in her old job. So remember, if the adjective ends in a Y after a consonant, take away the Y and add IER. Now, let's have a look at superlatives. So, we use superlatives to show the difference between a person or thing from others. And this time, we need to use the word the. Let's have a look at some examples. So, last Thursday was the hottest day of the year. The most exciting ride at the theme park was the roller coaster. And London is the busiest city in the United Kingdom. So we are showing the difference between a person or thing from others, and we need to use the word the to do so. And the word the will always go before the adjective in the superlative form. So, adjectives with one syllable, small, cold and cheap. We would begin by using the word the, but we have to add est after the adjectives. So, for example, the smallest, the coldest, the cheapest. Okay. Also, with the word nice, this time we would add st because the word nice already ends in e, so we don't need to repeat that letter again. So this time just st. So for example, I could say Sarah is the nicest person in the class. She's the nicest student. So remember, add est after the adjective and place the before the adjective in the superlative form. Now, adjectives with one syllable, vowel and consonant, remember to add the end consonant, but this time we have to add est. So, for example, the biggest, the hottest, the thinnest. Okay, so you have to add the end consonant and add est. So big plus another G plus est to form the word biggest. Now, adjectives with more than one syllable. Before, when we were looking at comparatives, we would use the word more plus adjective. But now we're looking at superlatives. So instead of using the word more, we will use the word most, followed by the adjective. Remember, you need to begin with the word the. So the most boring, the most interesting, and the most comfortable. So have a look at the picture and think of a sentence to describe that picture using most plus adjective. 10 seconds, off you go. Okay, let's have a look at my sentence. It was the most boring lecture she had ever been to. Now, adjectives ending in y after a consonant. So with superlatives, we begin with the word the. Then, with the adjectives, you will take away the y, as before, but this time you will add iest. So, for example, my sister is the funniest person in my family. So remember, if the adjective ends in y after a consonant, take away the y, but this time you will add iest. Now, with some adjectives, they can be used in two different ways. So let's have a look at the word polite. So when we are using the comparative structure, we could say politer than, or we could say more polite than. Now let's have a look at the word clever. So we could say cleverer than, or more clever than. Now, if we are using a superlative form, if we use the word, for example, narrow, we could say the narrowest or the most narrow. If we use the word lovely, we would say the loveliest, or we could say the most lovely. So there are some adjectives that can be used in two different ways, in the comparative form and the superlative form. Now, irregular adjectives. The adjective good in the comparative form is better, superlative form best. The adjective bad is worse in the comparative form and worst in the superlative form. And the adjective far in the comparative form, farther or further, and in the superlative form, farthest or furthest. So remember these. These are important to know. Now let's have a look at using adverbs when we are making comparisons. So usually with most adverbs, we can either put the word more or most in front of the adverb. So for example, if I use the adverb quietly, I could say, could you eat your popcorn more quietly, please? So this is a good example. Now, with some adverbs, you can use the comparative and superlative structure. So remember, fast is an adverb, long is an adverb, and hard is an adverb. So, for example, fast becomes faster, the fastest. Long, longer, the longest. Hard, harder, the hardest. And irregular adverbs, well. In the comparative form, better. Superlative form, the best. And the adverb badly, comparative, worse. Superlative, the worst. Now you will be tested on this at the end of this lesson, so don't worry too much about this at the moment. Let's have a look at using less and least. So with comparatives and superlatives, we use more and most. So all you need to know is that less is the opposite of more and least is the opposite of most. Let's have a look at some examples using less and least. So for example, the last exam was less difficult than the first, so we're making a comparative. And here, my least favourite subject at school was mathematics. This is using a superlative, okay? So remember, less is the opposite of more and least is the opposite of most. Now, we use less and least with uncountable nouns, and we use fewer and fewest with plural countable nouns. Let's have a look at this picture here. So, I'm going to create a sentence describing this picture. I'm going to say, at the moment, I am eating less cake and fewer biscuits because I am on a diet. So I've used less and fewer in the correct way. Now, this is extremely important because this does crop up in the exam. So, we're using this structure as plus adjective and adverb plus as, and we can also make this into the negative form as well. Now we're using this structure to compare people or things that aren't or are the same. So, for example, my house is as big as yours. So here we're using as, big is the adjective, and as. So in this sentence, my house is as big as yours, the houses are exactly the same size. Also in the next example, he is as funny as his father. Here, the son is as funny as his father, so they are both funny. They are the same. However, in the last example, she is not as fast as her competitor. Here, we are comparing two people. However, they are different. They are not the same. So remember, as plus an adjective or an adverb plus as is used to compare people or things that are the same. And if we use the structure not as plus adjective or adverb plus as, we're using it to compare people or things that are not the same. So remember this. Now, when we're using comparatives, if we want to show that there is a big difference, we could use a lot, far, or much. And if we want to show that there is a small difference, then we could use a little, a bit, or slightly. Now, these go before the comparative adjective. So have a look at the picture. For example, my father is much taller than my brother, because there is a big difference there. And my bicycle was slightly cheaper than yours, so there is only a small difference in the price. Now, with superlatives, if we want to stress the difference between one thing or person from the rest, we could use easily or by far, and these go before the superlative adjective. So, for example, this was by far the easiest exam I have ever done, and as you can see in the picture, they got 100 marks out of 100. So it was by far the easiest exam. Now it's test time.